All right. So now, good morning, everybody. So you may see that there are two of me today. There's one with video and there's one with audio. That's because my work computer's audio is messed up yet again. Don't know why. So I've got two computers here. My home computer is hopefully capturing my voice, and my work computer here is capturing me on the video. So today is a work session, as we were just discussing. And a work session is one where we don't have a specific training agenda presenting anything in particular to teach people. Rather, today is more of a general conversation where you have the opportunity to pose questions that Sonia and I will attempt to answer or deflect if we have no clue, or then madly search the user base for an answer while trying to appear calm, collected, and like we know what we're doing. Which with Canvas, I don't know about Sonia, but I still have not fully adopted a Canvas brain. So when you work with software long enough, you begin to think in patterns that are associated with how you interact with that software. So I've been working with Moodle so long that my brain is still with a set of Moodle schema. I haven't fully adopted Canvas schema, so I don't have a good quick way to harness what I know about Canvas and talk about it or to show it in any way. Nor do I yet have a complete mapping. Like I want to do this in Moodle, so I know I can do this in Canvas. Sonia has a document that has some of that on there. I haven't looked at it yet, but one of the things that we I think should do today is to publish the access to our repository where that document and other things that you will find useful reside. So maybe at some point today, Sonia can post that in the chat. Think of it as a beta test. We are just going to start unveiling it. Simply what it is just where we're trying to collect in Canvas recordings that we've done for sessions that we've done, helpful hints, and things like that. So it'll be kind of a one-stop shop in Canvas for things related to the Canvas migration that she and I are doing, or Canvas training, and so on.
I'll
So,
drop that in the chat right now.
very good.
It's a self-enroll.
Right. Meaning when you click on it, if you are logged into Canvas, it will automatically enroll you in the class. If you're not logged into Canvas, you will have to log in before you can be enrolled. So one of the things I want to do today is I want to start off with a very short discussion about Canvas and where we're at and where we're going with that. And the way I want to do that today is I want to have two topics. One, I'd like to call on Steve to give us his impressions of teaching his math class in Canvas this semester, what he's learned about it, what works well, what he's still struggling with, if anything, and so on. And then I want to open it up more broadly to what is it that we as a group perceive as advantages to Canvas, or what is it that we hope will be an advantage, something that we hope to be able to do in Canvas going forward. And then if we can, Sonia, if you can record some of those ideas, then we can do trainings on them if there's something that we don't already have in our training mix. And then I do want to touch very briefly on a couple of tricks in Canvas that I've learned that you may want to know about if someone doesn't already know about them. And also, in case you haven't seen it, I'd like to share our Moodle to Canvas migration flowchart, a process that Sonia and I have worked on that we think is the most efficient and effective way to take a class that has been migrated from Moodle into Canvas and then make that Canvas version teachable as quickly as possible with the fewest steps and hopefully the fewest errors. There will be some, but those are the kinds of things that you just expect. So Steve, I want to ask you again, what's your experience been this summer teaching your differential equations class in Canvas and what you have learned?
Well, it's a weird class because it never had more than 3 people who were active in it, and now I'm down to 2, and it's fully online. But we do most of the stuff that we do for the class is very focused on Zoom and using an external software program. So this is not a course in which I'm like having them do lots of stuff in Canvas, which is a good thing, which is why I said yes to doing it, because I thought, hey, it'll get my feet wet and I'll let me play around in Canvas, but without expectations that, I have to have like quiz, quiz banks, built, and I'm gonna have to figure out all the, the grading technology as part of Canvas. So it's a pretty low usage in terms of the features of Canvas. But one of the things that, for me, one of the things that's weird getting used to is the difference in grades, gradebook, the categorization of assignments, figuring out how to go in and assign grades on things that are not graded within Canvas, and how that it was a little weird at first. Like, for example, if you're in Canvas and you're in your course, and this is for me, and I click on assignments, it shows me all the assignments. And if I click on one of the assignments, you would think, I mean, this is what I would think. I would think that I'd be able to, from clicking on the assignment, be able to actually see my students' submissions. I can't. There's no way for me to see like this person submitted, this person submitted, this person submitted. What I have to do is go over to download submissions or SpeedGrader off to the side. This is what I'm learning, by the way. It's fully possible that there are ways to do this. But if I'm in my assignments here, I can show you, for example, if you, I don't know, am I allowed to share screen real quick? Oh, you're on mute, Brian. I think you're saying yes. Give me a chance to change the settings.
We
There we
could
go.
probably make that happen.
Hey, okay, I think I can. Yep, I think I can. So let me go. I'm gonna share my screen just to show you my stripped down class. Incredibly stripped down class. The home screen for this is just kind of a laundry list of stuff. But
remember, this is recording, so don't show any students.
oh no, I won't. So if I'm clicking on assignments, click on the assignments. I have a whole bunch of stuff that got imported from my previous course, and I'm sort of picking and choosing what I'm going to use and what I'm updating and all that stuff. But for example, if I click on this problem set, they just turned this in yesterday actually, and so this problem set was due yesterday on the 16th at 9 a.m. You can see I have the ability to add a rubric. I have the ability to, kind of off to the side. Let me move people's faces here. Off to the side, I have the ability to download submissions, but there's no like visible quick way for me to see who's submitted for this assignment.
What
which
if
I think
you go to SpeedGrader?
So if I go to SpeedGrader, I will see this. And then if I do have students that I can kind of click through and I can see them on there, but because this is a Maple file, there's no preview that I can do. So I can quickly, if I click on SpeedGrade, I can go in and then assign grades individually. So it's taken me a little while to get used to this idea that, I have to, here, see if I can click on back here. I don't want to be in SpeedGrader. Let me move this menu bar off to the side. I don't want to be in SpeedGrader right now, but SpeedGrader is one place, or I can download submissions, but there's no like quick, obvious, here are your students, here's who's submitted. And that's a little weird for me, a little different. Also in terms of inputting the grades, if you go into the grades section, inputting the grades is actually easier in Canvas. I think it's easier for putting in the grades, but making sure that grades are kind of, the assignments themselves are, classified in the right way. So, in your grade book, whatever categorization you have in your grade book, and the categorization that you might have in your grade book doesn't necessarily line up with, I'm trying to think how to describe this. Maybe you can help me, Brian, but the idea that like these assignments, these are homework assignments. So they get assigned to the homework category in my grade book, but because they're submitted from external and they're not graded, what's the classification that I have to make sure that this thing is set at? Do you remember what that's called? If I go into
there is a in class submission type.
And there we go. Submission type.
Not graded submission type or no submission.
Yeah, so submission type is getting a little weird for me. It's getting used to this idea. I mean, I can override it. I can assign a grade even afterwards, but knowing the difference between no submission, online, on paper, and external tool, it's not intuitively obvious to me at the beginning what's going on there. The other thing that was a little weird for me at first was the availability date can't be before the start date of the course. Now, that sounds completely obvious, but when they imported my stuff from the spring, the winter, the spring, sorry, the spring, when they imported my stuff from the spring, all the dates for the assignments, the availability dates were set for the beginning of the spring semester. And so all of this, it took me a little while to realize why I was getting error messages. It wouldn't let me assign these things as long as the availability was set for before the 31st of May, which is when this course started. So little things like that are, I mean, they're mostly minor hiccups, but overall, I've had no real problems. Again, I'm not doing anything super fancy on there, but as far as I can tell, Jenna, the question of is there a place that tells you there's something waiting to be graded? No, although if you go into the assignment, if you look up in the corner, I don't know if you spotted it when I had it, it said, download, a 3, it was like 0 of 3 or something like that. It was listed there. And so that's an indication of, what's available for you. But there's no, as far as I can see, I haven't played around with it enough, but there's no way to, I haven't found a way to get it to, scream at you, hey, this thing has people waiting to get grades.
So let me address.
No, thanks. I got one.
That came up with this that I think might be useful based on what you said, Steve. So the gradebook is very different than the Moodle gradebook. And that's an example of that Moodle brain and Canvas brain. Soon we'll adjust to that. One of the biggest things that I'm still dealing with this, and I think you are too, is that in Moodle, when you wanted to categorize grades, to group them by weight, you would do that in the gradebook. In Canvas, you must do that in assignments. So all grouping is done in assignments in Canvas. So that would be to set up groups for weighting, as well as for setting them up as a way to help you understand where to do it. In terms of knowing when there is something to grade, if you log into your class, go to your dashboard into your class, there's a thing called the activity stream over on the right-hand side that will tell you if things have been submitted. Let me see here if I can give an example of that. Share my screen. And which screen do I want to share?
Yeah, I see my to-do on the right-hand side, and it
Yeah.
shows that there's grade problem set 3, but it doesn't show me how many are there. It doesn't indicate how many.
Correct.
Oh, no, I guess it does. Maybe it does. There's a
it
little
shows
circle with the
one
number
next-
2.
right next to the right. You see.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right. So here is a practice course, no real students. And if you take a look at it, this is my home page. Right now, I've got it set to my syllabus, basically. This is one of the options that you have there. But over here in my to-do, you can see that I've got one weighting in this item and one weighting in this item. So I can know that there's something to do there. In assignments, as we were talking about, this is where you do your grouping instead of grade books. So right now, you see I have these groups. Right up here, you see the plus group. So I have these groups set up. And notice that I have weights set for those groups at 10% of the total up to 25% of the total. And that's all done here in assignments instead of in the grade book like we think of in Canvas. Sonia, do you have anything to add based on what Steve has said as the difference between Moodle and Canvas and some things to think about?
One thing that I would suggest is going into your notifications, and you can tell it to send you notifications and how often to send you notifications. So as an instructor, you could possibly go in and tell it to email you when you have something.
So that would be an account and then notifications.
Oh, in account.
Sure.
Got it. Okay.
And then you see, this is also something that's in Moodle. You can set where you get alerts and things like that. But you see, like where I have a due date, I don't want an email, grading policies, blah, 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 blah. But where I have an announcement, I like that sent to my email here. So I can turn it on, notify immediately. I can select a daily summary, a weekly summary, or I can turn notifications off in my email from this interface.
This does look the exact same for students as for everyone. It has the same options. So that's why it looks so general, and it doesn't say, it doesn't have like a dashboard for instructors that says when assignments are turned in. So it just says assignment notifications. So
Now, Sonia, I don't get a lot of activity in Canvas, but isn't there, yeah, right here, you also have in your dashboard. So if I click on dashboard, you will also see over on the right-hand side an activity stream feed that shows you some things that have popped up. So that's one thing to look for. This is one of the things that is from Moodle Brain to Canvas Brain that I haven't gotten used to, and that is looking over here on the right-hand side for things that I use all the time. So like when I go into a class, and you go here, there's some very important tools right here on this right-hand side, and my brain hasn't been trained yet to remember that it's over there. I have to process it every now and then. So things like if I want to see one of the tricks that I want to show today, and that is one of the questions that we've had is how are we going to do attendance? Because I can't find, like in Moodle, participants, which shows you their last login, or the logs, which show you. We have a new tool for that, and that's called New Analytics. So over here on the right-hand side, this, in my mind, takes the place of IntelliBoard, which we used to have in Moodle, which never really had the functionality we needed. This does do a better job. So if I click on New Analytics over on the right-hand side, it should load up. I think I have some things going on in here. The first time that you load this, it will tell you it may take 24 hours to populate it. But once you do that, it seems to continue to do that. So if you see here, this is just an overview, broad overview. Right now, my average course grade is 72.5%. That gives me a quick temperature reading on my classes. But then here, I have some reports that are useful, like weekly online activity. This can show me patterns of engagement. You can see here, more engagement, now not much engagement. Shows me what is getting clicked on by students here. This is the one that's really important for, I think, helping you understand what's going on, and that is participation in here. So here you have grade, and it's by student. You have the percent on time. Here is your last participation. So you can come in here and say, okay, this student last did something in my class on this date, which is one of the things that some people like to use for attendance. They also sometimes will want to see total participation, like what is their level of participation here. And you note that you can also sort this. So you, without very many students and without much data, it doesn't do anything for me, but you can see last participation, you can sort that ascending or descending. So if you want, you can have the students who have low participation to come to the top by sorting by descending. And that way you'll know these are the students that I need to report potentially for retention alert and so on. You can also download this as a CSV if you have a large class and you want to be able to manipulate it in a spreadsheet, you can do that. So that's one trick that I wanted to share that I don't think we've mentioned in any of our trainings yet, and that is New Analytics. Very helpful for gauging your students' engagement and potentially for doing attendance if you don't do it in another way. Another trick that I want to quickly show while I'm sharing my screen is in the gradebook. So in the gradebook, you have, of course, the spreadsheet type of view. And you probably have already seen that you can do Learning Mastery individual gradebook, and there is a gradebook history. And in view, you have different ways to arrange. But one of the things that may not be apparent to you is, how do I see the grades like my students see them? This is a common question that we get in Moodle. So in Moodle, you think, oh, I have to go to user view or single view. to see that. User is the best one. Well, in Canvas, you have two ways to do this. One, if you just want a quick read, you can just click on the student name and it'll pull it up here and it'll say, okay, so if a student says, hey, what's my grade? You can say, well, look, you just need to go to the grade book. But in the meantime, I can see, oh, you've got a 72. But that doesn't show it to you the way students see it. To see that, right click the student name and click open in a new tab or new window. And this takes you to this view. And this is as the student sees their grade book. So you'll be able to show it to them in office hour situation without showing other students' grades. Or if you just want to see, is my grade book being represented to students in the way that I need it to be represented in order to communicate to them how they're doing in class. So that's
Brian,
quick.
before you go any further, can I tell you there's a comment in chat?
Of course.
Susan Long asked, so assignments must be categorized by type such as homework, quiz, etc., and not by chapter.
No. You can categorize assignments any way you want to, but what Steve mentioned is if you want to have, I'll just go into an assignment here and edit it. My fireside philosophy of the Neolithic age. When you describe your assignment, just like in Moodle, where you have when you create an assignment, you get that configuration page. Canvas has the same sort of thing. But what you have to do is you have to tell it what kind of assignment it is. Oh, sorry.
If I could interrupt, my question has to do with grading and setting things up for grading categories. So what was described earlier was, you'd have all your homework stuff together and then you could say that's, 100 points or whatever percentage of the course. That's
Correct.
If I have things set up by chapter, then it's all mixed up within each chapter.
Right. Why am I not seeing? There we go. Okay. So submission type. Two parts to that question. First, what Steve was talking about is if you are doing a class in Canvas like he is, where he has something that may or may not be submitted to Canvas for grading, then you have to configure your assignment to tell Canvas what kind of grade item it is. So online makes sense, right? If it's online, it will either be graded by Canvas and the score will be posted into the grade book like a quiz, or it's something that you will grade by a rubric or something like that, a submission. If you're accepting something in a hybrid class or a face-to-face class in paper, a test, or if you prefer a copy or you're doing a project in class, you choose on paper. No submission is just an empty grade item. So it means like that could be a participation score, just something you observe. And then of course you have the external tool, which I'm assuming, haven't tested it yet, would be something like Cengage and so on. Now to your question, Suzanne, in assignments, the groupings that you do here, if you want to group things by type in order to weight them, this is where you have to do it in assignments. So if you use a weighted grading system and you say all of my homework that would be as an aggregate 10% of the grade, all of my quizzes another 10%, the midterm and final together is 50%. That kind of grouping and weighting does have to take place in assignments here. So you can create a group.
So just to interject, the answer to my question would be yes. If I want to say my homework is 25% of the course grade, then
Yes.
I would need to organize by homework and assignments and say 25%. That is actually not what I want to do. I'm looking for Moodle gradebook setup where I can go in and really see the points and how the points are calculated. I prefer to set up my course based on points and not percentages.
All right, so with that, again, this is the difference between Moodle and Canvas. The gradebook does not have the functionality of setting up all of that stuff like it does in Moodle. It's a much reduced gradebook set of tools. So what you can do in the grade book, you can choose between Learning Mastery Individual or Gradebook History. You can arrange your gradebook, sorting how you see that in the gradebook, which does not impact weighted groups. So if you want to see your gradebook here in a different way, you can do that. And then import and export. That's really what you can do in the gradebook. When you're setting up your grading system, or your scheme as it's sometimes called, that's really all done in assignments. Oops, gotta hit, sorry. Hit my course. In assignments. So when you are working with an assignment, that's where you tell it.
Yeah, I understand all that. What I want to see is one place where I can see everything in the class and how many points, so I can make sure everything's correct. I understand how to set up an assignment. I understand how to make an
Sonia,
assignment. We're 10
You
points.
know of a single place that shows the total available points on every assignment?
For every student?
No, just
No,
for the
just
whole class. So I think if I'm interpreting your question correctly, Suzanne, you want to say, okay, I've got 25 assignments. I want to make sure that assignment 1 is 25 points, assignment 2 is 100 points, assignment 3 is 70 points.
Yeah, I
All
want to
in
make
one
sure the class is set up properly and that the points all add up and work.
I will see if I
I'm
can find
this-
something that shows
I
everything.
have not seen it.
I'm the same way. When in JetNet, when you click user report, it's just an empty thing, but it has all the points and the assignments straight up, and I can say 25, 25, 25, 100, you know. So, but I would like that as well, if there is some way, because then when you're all done, you can say, oh my God, you know, I have 110%. But I use points too, Suzanne, so I'm with you with that. One place to see it all would help.
Oh, okay, so I went into the grade book, I right click the student, open it in a new tab, and you can see here, out of. Not the most elegant way, because it's actually looking at a student's grade, but it does show you out of, meaning how many points it would be.
Over at the right, what does that show in the,
Here,
no, further?
that's my weighting, that's the
Oh, okay. Let me
category.
see if I could find something different and I'll get back with you, all of you.
Thank you, Sonia.
Doesn't it show that in the grade book? If you go back to the whole grade book, Brian, if you
Okay.
look at the top, like each column, doesn't it say how many points?
Oh, it does, yes.
Yeah, I was thinking there also, but I think they want it all in one screen.
Or a summary that says this
Yeah.
class has a total of 1,200 points. You know, because we need it by each assignment, and then at the end, the 1,200, so that we know that 94% of that number equals the grade they're going to earn for 4 points.
Right. I'll see if I can find something for you guys, okay?
Is there a final column, like a total column, Brian, at the end of all of those things you have?
Click that, Brian, of those 3 dots, and see if you can put it in points instead of percent.
Nope.
I believe it, guys. I think if you go to assignments and you take off the weights and put the weights at 0, it should automatically go to points.
Assignments.
I'm processing that. I think default is still percentage.
So if you take, so for each of the categories, if it's just 0, it would ideally go to points.
I don't think you want to put it at 0% of
either.
total. I think you want to click on that actual thing, the little pill or whatever, and get rid of the weighting. What you're doing is you're just setting them all to 0.
Right.
Not
Actually,
getting rid of them.
it's not clickable.
Wait, go back into that thing, yeah. And go to edit. I think there's a way to get rid of it, like totally get rid of it.
So you're basically just taking out the weight and for each of the categories, and then ideally, I believe a point total would populate.
Well, let's test that. I'll,
Instead of 0, Brian, can you just put blank?
let's
Because I
see.
think,
Nope. So if I do that, it makes it 0. I put in a space.
I did this with the Jet Ready course where I took all the percentages out and it did not like it. So we'll see. I'm interested in seeing how this will work.
All right, so now if I go to my grade book, it's still waiting or still
Still
giving me
waiting.
0.
I think for me, who I actually don't know anything about what I'm talking about, but my question is, I know how to put the points in, I think, instead of having it weighted. So at the end of the day in JetNet, I could see a grader report, which is what you're showing here, where you have to go all the way across the screen. But my
Correct.
mind likes the little box, the user report, straight up and down, so I can see each category has the correct amount of points in it. And at the bottom, they all add up to one thing. I think that's where my question is, because then I could visually see quickly, bam, it's right, like that.
Yeah, I will look to see if I can find something like that. Thanks for your guys' input.
My understanding of the way Canvas works is you have to go to, as you create each assignment, you have to tell it how you want the grade each assignment. So in this case, percentages, I believe the default. If I choose points and then save, and
Or save
oh,
again.
it's telling me I need a,
Oh, text.
because I have an online entry.
I know there's a couple questions over in the chat and I will bring them up once this conversation's done. So you haven't been overlooked or forgotten.
So then if I put in a grade, it's still doing this.
I think you have to hit enter.
I looked it up online. I did a Google search and I'm gonna
Yeah,
put the thing in the box, in the chat box.
That's perfect. I found it too.
What's the answer? I can't get to my chat box yet.
It's in grades.
It is in grades, okay. So let's go to grades and
Then you on the little toolbox there, or on that little wheel.
the gear here.
settings.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you. All right, so
Let's take a look here.
I don't see a points.
Says by default, Canvas displays the final grade to students as a percentage.
Is it
Instructors
in the grading policy, grade posting policy?
says access settings under the court. I'll just give you the whole template here. I'll put the template in the chat. It's from another college, but that's the template. When you scroll down to highest point total,
All right. Changing the grade default from percentage to points by default. Access grades. Highlight over the total column. it says highlight over the total column.
If you click the three little dots there, and you can sort it a certain way, is that correct? Go low to high,
Yeah, that's,
it won't highlight.
Brian, can you share what you're doing on your screen?
is my screen not showing a grade book?
It is showing the grade book, but it's not showing what you're looking at, what
Oh.
David sent to you.
Oh, okay, so here, so changing the grade default from percentage to points, it says access grades, which I've done, highlight over the total column, select switch to points, and I'm not seeing a highlight over total column. I don't know what that means even.
That looks like it's in the grading. What is it? Customize the grade.
Are we sure they use Canvas?
That was Canvas.
Yeah, it looks like Canvas to me.
It does,
Canvas is
but-
the only one that has the what if for the student, so.
That's true. That is. I have not run into it. I don't know how to get to it. It's something that Sonia has now put on our to-do list.
Yes, can you share that document to the group so I can capture it real quick?
I believe you put it in the chat, right?
Is it in the chat?
Yes, it's
Oh,
in the
I'm
chat.
sorry, I missed it, I'm sorry. I'm still up here. Jenna had a question quite a while ago,
Okay.
if we can move to that. Her question is, how would weighting work if you want different points for each exam? For example, 50 points for exam 1, 100 points for exam 2, 150 points for exam 3.
So for that, as I understand it and understand your question, in assignments, if you are grading by points, you could use natural weighting, meaning the more you want the task to count for in the grading system, the more points it can be, can own. In a grouping, if you want to grade by, or if you want to have weights applied to categories, you can still have each assignment worth a different number of points, or each quiz. You can, when you edit a quiz,
I guess my question is more of a theoretical question. So
Okay.
I would like to have all of my Connect assignments worth, I don't know, 20% of the grade. And so I want them weighted,
right?
but I kind of want to have my exams unweighted.
Jenna, you're kind of hard to hear.
So you can.
I'm sorry, is that better?
Yes, much
So let's just take for this example, if this was your Connect and you weighted that, you can do that. And then your exams, you're not weighting, but because you're using weighting, it's going to take whatever is left over and apply that, as I understand it. So in effect, as soon as you introduce weighting, everything, well, even if you're not weighting, everything is weighted. It's just everything is weighted as equal, right? That's just the way it is. Anytime you start manipulating the weighting, then you're still weighting. It's just that you've said this group gets 10%, and then anything that's unweighted gets the remainder of weight applied equally. That's just how math works in a grade book.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a generally confusing process for a lot of folks, but the idea of, you know, grading having a grade book that's weighted versus one that's just points, they're both weighted. I mean, they really are weighted. If you're doing points, you're just kind of obscuring the weighting. That's all you're doing when you're saying I'm going to do it by points. It's still weighted. It's just you're determining the weighting in the background.
Well, I
And-
think actually points is a little more transparent because the more points, the greater the weight.
If in terms of transparent, you mean easier to see that this is worth more than that, you're kind of, you're basically obscuring the weighting, which is happening kind of at an abstract level, and you're just comparing, you know, apples to apples in terms of point. You know, one exam point is worth how many of these points, that kind of thing. I suppose if you wanted to think of it that way, sure, but it's all weighting. It's just whether you're obscuring it or not. So, and I think that the grade book in here, and I haven't played around with it very much for my stuff. I literally have 2 categories for this class that I'm running, which is homework and exams, and actually I have a third one, which is the final exam. So, and I was kind of kicking the can down the road in terms of figuring out what I'm going to do with the weighting, but I've got mine set up for weighting so that my homework is a certain amount. You know, it's like 40% for my homework, and my midterm exams are 40%, and the final exam is 20%. And the midterm exams are all different number of points, so that they weigh different amounts within the category of midterm exams. So like the exam they're working on this weekend is worth, you know, 100 points, but their next exam is only going to be worth 50 points because it's a smaller thing. So it's weighting within the weighting of the classic the category. So I've been
Before
waiting
we-
for a grade like you to come into my life.
Oh, great.
Before we leave, can I share my screen, Sonia, with you to show you what I'm interested to see
Sure,
you find?
one second. David just shared another link, Brian, that shows the step-by-step how to do it, and I just glanced at it, and I've done that before. I just still don't think it's going to show what they're looking for. So if
Yeah,
you
I'm
can go
trying
ahead
it.
and share
I'm
your.
trying it right now. and
I'm
not
wondering
working.
if, when we set up the individual assignments, if we have to have certain things checked there to allow,
Mhm.
because there is that one link that David shared that shows those 3 buttons that I asked Brian to press, and it says show by points or display points, like Suzanne was asking for. And when Brian pressed it, that option wasn't there.
Right.
I think it's
Collect the data.
because he is already weighted. So to get rid of the
Yes.
weighting, I cut and pasted something. I'm sorry, I couldn't get the whole thing, but it
Thanks,
shows you
Steve.
how to unweight those, get rid of the weighting on those categories.
I think what we'll find is some of us weight like the whole category, but we want the individual points to still add up to the end,
Mhm.
right?
That's
So-
what I had problems with Jet Ready, was it was
Both.
weighted when it came in.
Mhm.
So I had to stay with it being weighted during this pilot. So my next, in the fall when I do it, I'm gonna I'm gonna go through with all the assignments and recreate all the point system and start over. So those weights aren't there, because if the weights were there, I couldn't turn it to a point system. I was hoping we would figure that out too. Okay. Thanks, Steve. Who was it that wanted to share their screen?
It's me. I just want to show you real quick. And
Brian,
then,
can you share Diana's screen?
While Diana's doing that, so is this the method for all of our Canvas training, or do we have a Canvas person coming to help with these little intricacies so that Brian and Sonia, you guys aren't learning along with us necessarily, that someone's leading us?
There are future trainings for this specifically, and the next one is they're all posted in this repository, and Jamie sends emails that have the list of what the trainings are. So the next training, hold on, I'm using the wrong browser to view it. Let me go back. I'll tell you real quick. Oh, well, it's next Wednesday, so I'll just go to the calendar. That'll be easier for me. Next Wednesday, 10 a.m. is Outcomes and Learning Mastery. And then, darn, I wish I was in my office because I have the flyer right posted on my, right on my door. I don't have the dates all memorized, but they are doing grading. Grading is one of them. I think it's,
And those will be
but
recorded.
the answer is
right?
yes, yes,
And go
yes.
back to Classes at that time, okay.
Yep, they're all recorded and we have them on the JC intranet. And they're also in this repository if you want to join the repository.
So I'll just share this real quick. This is what I'm interested in JetNet, the grader report. I can't click it because it has students' names, but that's what Brian, you were showing, you know, the big long,
Yes.
you know, and then this is the other option to see is user report. And so here I can easily see my categories, quizzes and participation and cultural event.
I'm gonna take a
And-
screenshot of that 1 second so you guys will see my camera, but it's not taking a picture of you. It's just taking a picture of the screen.
And it's here's the points. I go strictly by points. And you know, I can see at the end, okay, cool. The quizzes are 300, the participation is 100, and
Please
the
hold it
cultural
right there.
event. Okay, the cultural event is 100. So they all add up to 500. So the world is safe and sound. So it's one
Right.
place that I don't have to move around. You know, I could see everything is where it belongs. So
You can see
the
that in
grader
the setup.
report is the big long thing. And then that messes with my mind. If we have something like this in Canvas, that would help me anyway.
Okay, I'll look for it. Thank you for showing me. That makes it,
Thank
I mean,
you.
that's what I was guessing you were saying, but seeing it makes it so much better. I'm gonna look up the dates for the next trainings and what they actually are to tell you. We can talk about something else while I'm looking at that. I just don't want you guys to go before I answer the question.
This is Larry. I just posted a link to a book that's available through the library subscription to O'Reilly for Higher Education, which is Canvas design. It's kind of steps you through the process from beginning to end. If you click on that link directly, it will take you to that book.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Larry.
Make sure that gets in our repository, Sonia.
I will.
Thank you.
Are there also links to various how-to guides? Canvas,
Yeah.
I saw there was a link on, an additional link to it, but this book looked like it's pretty good. For me, I'm just starting to get into Canvas and watched a few of the sessions, so I'm kind of bringing up the rear, but I need to have something in writing so I can kind of toggle back and forth between it. It helps me. That's the way I learn best.
Yeah, well, it's nice because others do too. So I'll definitely, thanks for taking the time looking for that. I'll add that to the repository. Kathy Fitzgerald says, I just want to verify everything with points should be set up in assignments, correct?
That is how it is done in Canvas. Also percentages. Any assignment, however you want it to grade, it gets described at the assignment level.
Wow, that didn't work well when I posted that. I gave all the items for Canvas also. It didn't look like it was going to do that. So we have the Learning Mastery coming up June 22nd at 10 a.m. The Creating Mastery Paths, July 13th. Camp Canvas Part 2, which will also talk about grading. And that will be Canvas will be providing that. All of these will be provided by Canvas, but Camp Canvas will have 2 courses that day. One will be accessibility and the other will be group work and collaboration. We have another one scheduled for the ePortfolio. And another one for grading, but those aren't on the schedule yet.
Okay, two things. Sonia, can you repost that repository link to join? Because I don't know where it ended up. And secondly, it's you guys have a very full training schedule plan. So thank you for that. I am just wondering back to, I think it was, I don't know who, I think it was Christy at the very beginning's question was, it would be nice to have a lab format with a Canvas person where we sit down and we set up an assignment, a quiz, a non-graded activity or whatever, and can get those three things in our class pointed out correctly in a grade book. If we can
Yeah,
get one of each of those,
that will be provided by Canvas.
I'm sorry?
That will not be provided by Canvas. That's something that Sonia or I would have to do.
Okay, but so do you understand, like, you guys are getting pelted with all these questions because it's kind of like assuming we already have stuff in there, and we need to start with putting these in
Oh.
and knowing how to do that, because not everything's going to be imported, and if it's imported incorrectly, we need to fix it. And then making sure that from the beginning we're setting, like you're telling us where to set the points up, but it would just be really nice to have let's put one assignment in, one quiz in, one of these in, and then group them in the categories, and by that point, hopefully Sonia will have found how to make it look like we could see in JetNet to make sure our totals matched up to 150 points or whatever those three things come to.
Right. So that we will have that kind of training. Today is not that kind of training. Today is a work session where we just are taking questions and talking about broad categories. So we've had a series of trainings, both face-to-face. Our pattern is face-to-face on Thursday, the same training essentially on Friday via Zoom, just throughout the summer. Though that's our pattern. It'll be the same thing Thursday and Friday, just different formats. So we have had some trainings that are much more specific, like here's how you do this, here's how you do this, here's how you do that. Today isn't that kind of format for us. Today is this broad range of things. So look on that schedule and look for one that has a topic that doesn't say like a work session, but it is a session about how to teach with Canvas. That will have that kind of format.
Okay. Let me say it another way.
I think I understand what you're saying, Angel, and we have provided those, but maybe you weren't available. If you do have dates that you and a group can come up with and say, we could all meet on this Thursday at 3 o'clock. Could you guys do something? We would be happy to satisfy that for you.
Because what I heard when Christy was asking the question is that was yesterday. That's what we did. But then what you just said was yesterday is the same as today. And so being able to ask you questions while we're working through it is what I'm asking for. So,
Yeah. So
Exactly.
If the training is spread out in chunks, then we're going to maybe do one part and then 2 weeks later do the other part, but that's not how we work. I mean, that's not how we set up a class, right? You sit down, you set up the assignments, and you just keep going. And so even if you guys don't have time for us to set up 10 assignments, if you guys could help us set up one assignment and then move to the next thing we need, let's set up one quiz, let's set up one of each. We could do the 10 on our own at that point, but we've walked through the process from beginning to end, designing the assignment, one assignment, getting it in the grade book, and checking that it is calculating properly. Like,
we're
don't
happy
do those
to do
two
that.
things 2 weeks apart. That's not how we work.
Yeah, we are. He was just saying what we do have planned instead of what we could have planned.
And I'm not trying to, and I appreciate, I mean, it's a very thorough, full-fledged plan. I just think what you're hearing from all of us kind of nitpicking each little thing is that we kind of need to be able to have a work session like that. I was not able to attend Camp Canvas. I don't know if you did that there, but I had a conference.
They didn't.
I couldn't. So
No,
It was
Camp
very,
Canvas
very
was not
structured.
bad at all.
Yeah. So it was very, very structured. And what I need is a work
Have a great
day.
day, Clavester.
I need to go into a computer lab. And this is what I've been saying since the beginning with my class, start setting things up. And I know you guys feel like you need to have a format for everything where you've got this example and this speaker and that leads a discussion, but it's not getting me any, I mean, it's all, I don't want to say it's random. It's not, but it's all useful information, but it's not where we're at right now. right?
This
I-
is the first time I've heard it, so I'm glad you guys are bringing it up, and I would love to work with you on that.
So I'm very interested in what Angel's saying in a work day, just where it's very unstructured for you, where we start working and, you know, there's somebody there to come talk to us and answer our questions and work through what we're trying to do.
Sounds great. If you two, you know, I don't know who all likes to learn that way, so I would feel odd sending an email out to everyone, and then it's no longer a small group, it's a large group. I don't know how you guys want to go, you know, move forward with this idea, but
For those of us who are online right now, could you change your reaction to a raised hand if that's something you're interested in, and then we can kind of get a feel for even those who are present right now?
I see.
take
I
your
don't know
names.
how to raise my hand, but
Me?
I'm interested in any and all that everybody.
Is this Diana saying that?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, Diana has her invisible hand raised.
I feel comfortable with Canvas, so I don't think I need that.
Okay, very good.
Goals, David, goals.
Then maybe you could be one of the peers in the room with us helping. Sorry, that was
Yep, David, you just raised your hand.
Sonia, when is our next scheduled work day?
I that's what I was looking for, but then I got too involved in the conversation.
Look for that, and I'm gonna see, I can check the chat. We got a couple of questions I'll try to address
Okay,
while we can do that.
so who I have is Diana, Angel, Christy, Carol. Anyone else? Kurt, is your hand raised also? Becky Roberts has her thumb up instead of her hand raised. Becky, are you, oh, Kathy also, sorry. She's in the chat. I'm gonna put Kurt.
Yep, Kurt has his hand raised.
Yeah, and Becky Roberts.
Yeah, I would
I
attend
know,
as well,
Di-
but don't do it on my behalf.
I know Diane Hill would be interested also. She had another meeting this morning. She could attend this.
All right.
I don't know, maybe Chrissy Hughes also. And I will say, I know scheduling is an issue, so I don't know, you know, if we can and look at that, because I know we have another conference where it's a tech conference later this month, also the three and Suzanne of us. So not all
Okay.
of us, but I would like to be able to attend something if you guys have that kind of session where it's like, here's here's a demonstration, 10 minutes, how to set up an assignment. Now go set your own up.
Right.
Mhm.
So Sonia, look for our next work session, see if that is coming
Yeah.
up soon enough, and then we'll plan that format for the Thursday session in the community room. Bring your computer, we'll go through exactly that sort of thing. So let me go through chat. We've got a couple of questions. So Jenna asked, can we force students to have a certain notification turned on or off? The answer is no. Just like in JetNet, every user is totally in control of their notifications in their own setting. Let me see. I think we've answered that one. That one we're still working on. Question, just looking through chat to see if we've addressed these. Yeah, so then that one. Respondus. I have a question about Respondus from Janice. Will we still have a download link the students have to click on, and is that the same link? So it is the same link. It works differently in Canvas. In JetNet, when the student goes to the quiz, it will actually bring up the lockdown browser and hide everything else. That does not seem to work that way in Canvas. In Canvas, the student has to enter the quiz in the lockdown browser, but there is still a link for them to download the lockdown browser in order to initiate that.
Brian, what do you mean they have to go to the lockdown browser? Like
So
the link on
Respondus-
Canvas or like some other website?
So Respondus has the lockdown browser, which is that link that you use to download it is a separate browser than what you're using right now. So for a student to take a quiz using Respondus in Canvas, they actually have to load the lockdown browser, go to Canvas, go to the quiz. That's the only way that I've seen it work currently. Now, I don't know if that's the only way it can work. I can't see how to configure the back end of Respondus, if that's even possible in our IT department. But as I've seen it work currently with Canvas, and we've tested this, Sonia and I have tested this, you have to go to the lockdown browser, start it up just like you start up Chrome or any other browser, and then go to the quiz. So Ren had a question about Moodle. Moodle's contract expires the absolute last day of classes in
April 29th is the
April
last
20,
day.
which is fall term, correct? But the problem with that is, if we had a student that had an incomplete, we would not be able to let them continue in Moodle. If there were, a student that was a day or two late, we're going to lose access to it. So that's why we're not going to have any live classes running in Moodle in the fall 23 term. So everything has to be in Canvas spring 23.
Well, can I, excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I see another problem too. If Moodle expires on the last day of the semester, that also affects grades too. If you don't have your grades in by the end of the semester, does that mean you wouldn't be able to input your final grades if you're not inputting them until after the last day of the semester?
Correct. And that's why there will be no live classes in Moodle that semester.
So essentially then you need to have, and I'm thinking about this with adjuncts too. Everybody needs to be ready for Canvas by January of 2023.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Diana,
So-
you have the thing that Dan sent. That has not changed. Dan had a slight error, I think, no, it says all courses will be taught using Canvas fall 2023, summer 2023, Canvas or Moodle, spring 2023.
Yeah, I think there was a typo in there.
Yeah. So my understanding is that we want everything in Canvas spring 2023. is
Yeah,
my-
the error is in the spring 2023 where he says Canvas or Moodle will still both be options. But really, they aren't both options because January 1, that is spring. So
Yeah, I think he meant to say summer 2022.
I don't know, but yeah, so spring 2023, strictly Canvas, no Moodle. Moodle still will be floating around, but we'll be teaching in Canvas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
can I make one more comment? I know we're over.
No, no problem. Mhm.
Somebody made I think Sonia and somebody else were, I think it was you with David saying, oh, maybe you can come and be the peer
Yeah.
Mhm.
helper. I don't think that's really a bad idea because even yesterday there was
Don't
you
think
and Brian, Sonia, and then there were 3 of us. And it's hard because once people start talking, there's follow-up questions. I don't think that's a bad idea. I'm lucky that I'm in the office next to you, Sonia, but there were questions I had yesterday that I never, we didn't get to it because the other 2 people were working with the 2 of you, and that's fine. I mean, it's not a problem, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea if there were some of our colleagues that are comfortable in Canvas to, if they could be around. And of course, I realize that's a volunteer thing and we're all way too busy, but that's just a thought I had.
Thank you, David. David just volunteered.
Great.
You're welcome.
We do have a peer group that we're starting to like build. We have a plan for that. But if anyone wants to jump out in front of that, that's wonderful.
All right, any other questions? Today has been kind of an interesting session because we've had a broad range of questions. This online format is a little more difficult to deal with individual questions because everyone has to hear the answer. We can't just, in like we do in a face-to-face, just go talk one-on-one with someone. So it is kind of different. Sonia, have you found the training schedule?
No, I have not found the training schedule that has the work sessions moving forward. I think we are at the end of this, the scheduled sessions.
All right, so let's make the very next session that we schedule a specific topic, which is setting up a Canvas course from scratch, not a migrated class, which has been our focus up to now, but we'll make it like Canvas basic, how to set up a class from scratch. And that'll be our next training.
That will be great. Even with the imported classes, there may be one or two, assignments we need to put in there or change. And so that will help us see from the nuts and the bolts. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, Angel, before you, if you need something until that moment, we do have the trainings, the basic trainings recorded where we do go over those items. I know that's not what you're asking for, but I don't want to keep you on hold with nothing until then.
I have been going through some of them. It just feels like the pacing is different, right? I mean, and then you're like,
Then when someone's with you.
let me click this one and see if I get my answer kind of thing. And so they go, oh, that didn't answer, go to the next. And so, and I was doing the whole, remember I asked the question a couple trainings ago about the build your future or build something in there in the campus. I was going through the whole thing of that, which was the generic, apparently training for Canvas that's not really customized to JC, but I was doing that also. So, I mean, I am trying, I appreciate you guys having so much out there. I think that, but what you're hearing is just like, let me set up one assignment from beginning to end, set all my settings correctly so I know what buttons to click where, and then I can see how that shows up in the grade book and then see if that totals up. And so from that smaller, narrow focus, we can expand. I mean, we've been here before, right? But it's just that part I think would be super helpful.
All right, well, it's good to know that that's what you're looking for. We appreciate your feedback.
Yeah.
Also, do you guys have an update on LTI? And I understand that it's on the radar now and it's getting worked on, but do you know yet if it's like 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, a month out?
That's in IT, like you said, it's on the radar, but as other things are also on the radar that are deemed more important, I really don't have a read on that. I'm hoping sooner rather than later.
Okay, yeah, me too. I mean, and like, I still have some things to do anyway. So right now I'm working on my learning path through Cengage to make sure it's ready because I'm changing textbooks. So I'm making sure that my learning path is ready because it's not my old one. So I have to make changes. So I'm working on that right now. I'm making progress. I believe that once the LTI is set up, that when we do the deep embedding or deep linking, that we click a check mark at the top and we can check each of the things in our learning path to bring over, which is different than what Moodle deep linking was. I had to do each assignment and then go to the next one and then go to the next one. So I think that this process will be shorter in time frame as long as my learning path is set up. So I'm still working towards that. I know that it's on the radar now, which I'm much happier about. I'm feeling relieved. And just trying to plan around when should I plan to do that chunk of work because I have several classes to do it in. So.
Understood.
Thanks, David, for coming.
Yeah. And Jenna volunteered their new guy as someone who's very familiar with Canvas. So we will definitely tell him that he has been selected by popular acclaim, but we won't blame you, Jenna. We'll just
say someone,
a Canvas expert, so come help.
Yes. And I'll wait. Aaron said that he felt really comfortable too, but he left. He left before we could say his name, apparently.
He did say he would attend though, the session, so, and if
Oh,
you know
okay.
Aaron at all, he's helpful. Like if he were in the session, he would help.
Good.
And what was his last name again?
Ensley,
Ensley.
Ensley. He's our economics instructor.
Thank you.
All right.
Wonderful.
Well, with that, we'll close out the session. Thank you all for attending.
you.
It's been very informative. Sometimes we don't have all the answers, as you know, and sometimes we don't even know the questions. So sometimes having the question asked helps us prepare for the future.
So guys, I wanted to let you know that one of the things that I think would be helpful for me personally, I don't know whether other people are interested, but I'm having less of a problem figuring out how to do the nuts and bolts things and more of a problem figuring out the philosophy of it, of all sort of like what's best practice. And like Sonia, you and I have gone back and forth like, well, I could do it this way or I could do that way. Like, what's the pros and cons of each way? Even with this weighting thing, like I've never weighted before. I've always used my points as weighting, which means that I have a bunch of assignments that are like 3 points and 5 points.
Mhm.
And so you take off a point and the students freak out because they got 66%, right? So I haven't loved it and I've been waiting for Canvas to change that. And again, like, I think the philosophy of how you set up the course and how you do things, and even like, why would you pick this as the front page versus that as the front page? You know, some of those discussions I think would be helpful for me.
All right.
I'm
Yeah.
not an instructional designer, so I haven't been trained in thinking about the overall course structure as much as I think you guys have. So I just wanted to put that out there as another maybe possible training session that's less about, you know, click this and then click that, and more about like how to think about things before you spend a bunch of time.
Yeah,
I
so
think
one thing
those are
will
mine.
do ahead of time to manage expectations is to make sure that I tell you there isn't an answer, right? So
Sure.
what we would say is this is an aspect to think about. If your class tends to be more like this, you might choose this. If your class is more like this, you might choose this. But we probably don't have like the best way to do this is X, Y, and Z. It's more like you've got this range of options and you have to balance at least 3 things. One is what are the needs as you perceive them of students? What's their prior background? What are their expectations? What is it that will be easiest for them to accommodate and adapt to? Number 2, what's the nature of the content and how it's often taught in other institutions, because we are a transfer institution, but also what is the best way that your discipline has found to present material and evaluate students? That's one other thing. And the third thing is the nature of the instructor. So in a class where you're the only instructor, you can do things that you would not say, I can hand this class off to 20 adjuncts. So if it's an individual who's teaching it, you can cater the way that you structure a class very much more in a way that is tailored to the strengths of that one individual. And also keeping in mind the nature of the content and the nature of the students. But when you have many adjuncts, there are other things that you do have to think about. So it's this whole range of things that you have to balance, and you have to make some determinations. What is the most critical element among those 3 things to plan for and design for? And then there's a whole series of cascading decisions that you will make that we often do subconsciously or without a process. It's just a natural balance of, I've tried this, it doesn't work, that makes me feel a little uncomfortable, so I shy away from it and I move more towards this as that starts to work. Sometimes it is intentional, like your intention to change to a weighted system, you're going to try that out, you need to explore that. So again, to manage expectations, it will be a long, interesting conversation, but it won't be the answers. You're still going to have to make those determinations based on the philosophy, that's a good word for it, of how you want to engage students, evaluate students, communicate to students. and structure a class for other people to teach.
This is Brian and when we're sitting in the office and we're talking, like, these are the conversations we have. This is fun conversation for us. This is our favorite place to go. And we both agree with that there's so many options, and we don't want to even try to impose what we think you should do, but we would like to provide options for you to choose from, and looking at what other people do. And we do have some different templates in Commons that show different ways, but without it being explained, it might just be more confusing to you. So we could definitely schedule something. We are looking at training in the future for that, but I understand it's very relevant right now.
Yeah, I guess I feel like I'm trying to figure out sort of my philosophy before I go through and do all this work setting things up. Like, do you want to have points on assignments, or do you want to have a whole bunch of assignments that are just gating access to the thing that really gives you points, which is, I guess, the exam. So,
Bye, Diane.
yeah, so I kind of feel like what I'm looking for is a discussion, a conversation, more than a training.
This is the kind of thing that you might just want to schedule some time to come over to the sandbox, and we can just sit in front of that big whiteboard and map out some ideas and just have that kind of conversation.
We love it, and we're junkies. I mean,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
more fun for us than click this button and do that. I mean,
we would love to share what we found out there.
Granted, I still don't know which buttons to click, so I need that too, but
well, I'm still learning the buttons.
I agree, Jenna, though. It is important to say, this is kind of what I would like to achieve, but instructional and designers, what are the optional map to get there, and what are your take on each of those as far as the success of students or faculty delivering that content? I mean, that is still another piece that we do need. Yes, absolutely. So I agree, Jenna, with you on that. And that discussion, those are the things that are more exciting for us, right, as faculty too, than what button to press. That's what are the hurdles that get in our way of trying to accomplish the things that Jenna's talking about.
You could spend 70 hours building it one way and then decide, man, I wish I would have tested that way. And then you're so involved and you've put 500 hours in creating this course, and then it's just, it's too late to go back. You've already.
That's how I definitely felt like that about JetNet. Like, I had it set up and then I was like, ugh. And then when Canvas started coming, I thought, okay, this is an opportunity to rebuild sort of from scratch. And then now that I'm rebuilding from scratch, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? This is a lot of work to redo all of this. So again, I still feel a little bit like I'm like on one foot, sort of waiting, like standing on the line, like, which way do I go? So, and the clock is ticking. I'm like, well, am I going to get this done before September?
Hi, Carol. Go ahead and schedule with us, Jenna. Our calendars are most often up to date. Brian works from home on Tuesdays. I work from home on Wednesdays, but we're always in the office on Monday and Thursdays.
Well, I'm wondering if we could even do like a Zoom, because for me to come in with, the gas prices, it's an hour each way for me. So maybe
we'll have a pretend whiteboard.
We'll have a whiteboard on the screen, but let me see how that goes. I've got a couple of things coming up next week.
Yeah.
But, all right.
You also, Angel, if you would like to schedule with us.
Yeah, I'm on campus every Thursday for a class anyway, and then I have virtual on Wednesday. But I may do that because I have, like Jenna, built things in JetNet, and I have probably 5 different versions. And I like certain things in JetNet of the class, but I never rebuilt like that class. Like, I'm going to do this other class a whole different way. So I have grids, and I have tiles, and I have CVE, and I have all these restrictions on some and not on the others. And so even for me, it's like, how did I design this class again when I go in? Because, to do the imports in JetNet, you had to set your grids first before you import, or you lost all your images. And so I do have all that variety, trial and error. And so I would like to avoid having so much variety coming in. I'd like to have a little bit more like, these are like 2 ways you could take to get there out of the 6, that I'll try both of those maybe instead of all 6.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
yeah,
will schedule something on, probably on a Thursday afternoon.
you'll see. We're really excited about that conversation.
Well, good.
So,
It does help when like, I think it was Diana shared her screen and said like, this is kind of what I'm looking for over
Mhm.
here. If you guys know where that is kind of thing, that is helpful, because one of the things I was looking at the templates, I'm still not sure really how to organize to kind of get the look of the journey for the students yet. Even once I get all the nuts and bolts in place, I kind of want it to group so that they have this whole module, and then it'll just kind of get them going. Like they really can't go anywhere else. They can't go anywhere wrong. They can't do the wrong assignment. And that's taking me years to perfect in JetNet, because before they would maybe be working on it, I'm like, that's not where you need to be working. Like, especially because we use in our area Cengage, so they go out into the learning path. And so I've locked things down where I don't want them there yet. It's they don't have support there yet, kind of thing. Like if you go this way, you can self-pace this way if you take this path. And so finding out ways to do that in Canvas will be helpful. So yeah, I do look forward to scheduling some time. I need some pieces in there first though that I understand. So and
right.
not the whole course, just like some pieces. So I don't get too far in and be like, that wasn't the way to go. But now I know how to do those pieces again pretty quickly over here. So,
Okay.
great. Thank you so much for your help today.
Yeah.
No worries. And while I'm still recording, I'm going to share my screen because I have figured out a thing that we were working on today, which was that percent versus points. So you don't have to stick around if you don't want to, but I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, but hey, if it's here, I'm going to look right now.
So I created a course and I set up just a simple assignment, and I did not weight any of my groups at all. So now you see the grade book for that. Sonia, you're doing very well in this class. So if I go to total and I click on the 3 dots, boom, see what's here? Display as points.
Because it was weighted.
It is.
other one.
If you weight something, then you do not have that option.
So I'll give you like a little another thing to kind of look for that some of us do. So I have some activities because of CBE that if students do this additional training, focused training, because they need it and the other students didn't, they can do these like say 20 things. And like Jenna, they might be 1 or 2 or 3 points a piece. And so I don't, what I do is I have that currently grouped and that one section is only weighted. And that's only a few percentage for the very end of the semester if they do them. And actually I make that extra credit because I have required things that really determine their grade, and the extra credit really doesn't make or break their grade, but they have to feel like they're getting something for it beyond their learning. And so in mine, I usually use all points, and that one section is worth 10 points. Does that make sense? But there's like 50 points or something in there. And so that would create another complication to have one of the categories weighted. So if you can find that answer, not right this second, but if you come across that
I'm not sure that we have an answer for that. I think Canvas is set up this way and there's no way to change that. If you weight something, you are weighting everything. This is the way it looks.
Jenna had found, she had posted this. This is the second time she had posted this. But in order to turn the weighting off, and there's a way to turn all of the weighting off. It doesn't answer the question that Angel was just mentioning. But in order to turn all the weighting off, you would go to assignments, click the 3 dots, click on assignment groups weight, unclick the little box next to weight final grade based on assignment groups. So I would love to see how that works.
Yeah, that might give us one grouping that is not weighted and one that is.
Yeah, I think you would have to go back to that one course you had, Brian, that was all
With a
weighted up.
larger amount.
Uh-huh.
I would love that because I don't want to have to rebuild all the assignments in JetReady.
You can see my
Right.
screen.
Well, like us.
So if I take that off, right?
Says go to assignments, click on the 3 dots, click on assignment groups weight, unclick the little box next to weight final grade based on assignment groups.
Right.
Yeah, so you'll
So that's
see
what I've
now
done.
nothing is weighted. And if
Oh, right.
I think if you want to re-weight some of them, you
Like-
can.
Let's
And
just
then-
re-weight projects, for example.
So if I go to projects,
Uh-huh.
I I don't have an option to wait.
Mm.
What about the individual assignment? Is there anything in there? No.
So it looks like you either wait or don't wait.
Right?
Well, he just clicked more options and he's going back in.
I do not see a way to wait other than by manipulating points.
Right, right.
But
So-
now, just to answer Angel's question, if you go to your grade book,
Uh-huh.
since things aren't weighted, you should be able to see the points now, right?
All right, so now I'm betting displays points is there. Yep.
So, yeah, I'm with you, Angel. I'm kind of like, do I want to go into this whole weighting thing? Do I want to stay with, I've always done points and I weight basically by the number of points I give, but now I'm giving so many more assignments because, well, they need them.
And so like in my case, some students need some of them, but not all of them,
Yes.
right? And so so what about the people who don't do them because they didn't need them? I don't want them to be graded down. And so when you're like, all said and done, this is still only worth this amount.
So
That
in JetNet,
is mastery paths.
I
JetNet-
think the mastery path we should ask that next week.
Okay.
So Mastery Path is one way to deal with that. It's more complicated, but in JetNet, you could, in fact, it was by default set up. If a grade item was empty, it was not counted against the student. So
Right.
I'm wondering if there's that same kind of function in the Canvas gradebook. So if you just leave it blank, then those points are not counted against the student in determining a percent-based grade.
Right. Well, because, we always had to play with that because they always inflated grades for students who quit participating also. Right? Because
Yeah.
they didn't ever get a 0, even though the time had expired. And so they did 2 things and they're getting an 80% or a 90% class. And someone who did the whole class is getting a 70, but they're the ones actually going to get a grade because once they put all those zeros in, the other student has a 0.
Yeah, that's
You know,
tough.
so that is a philosophical debate there too, just in how we assess the students and how they can read their grade as the semester goes on. Does it look inflated or does it look more actual, but you can't do the percentages? They don't see the percentage easily.
Yeah, the whole 0, if you haven't done it yet, is an issue because
Yeah,
if
it
you don't
is.
keep up with putting those zeros in, they think they're doing fine because it doesn't count towards the average. So
Right.
I just put in all the zeros yesterday when I was doing the attendance, and I got a whole pile of people saying, "What happened to my grade?" And they said,
Right.
"You didn't do any work."
Exactly.
What did you expect? But
Uh-huh.
it didn't automatically show them that they weren't doing any work.
Right. So that they're in that. So sometimes it's like when we talk philosophically about how we're going to reach the goal of it's these choices here, and then how does it affect the next spot and the next choice we make there? To then, is it then better again to wait or not wait or display points or display percentages and
Right.
and then everything? Yeah, absolutely. But we have to know the classroom management philosophy at the beginning. Like, are we going to manually go in and put zeros like Jenna just suggested?
Mhm.
I do have dates in my class. I have one class that we're bringing grades over, and I actually give them a warning. Like, I have a date, and I accept late work up to a certain point in the class. Then there is no, that's my classroom management. That doesn't fit every faculty member. And so at this date, I will accept nothing else. And it's typically when the finals open, like we're done. I'm not grading anything else. And I will tell them tomorrow I will be putting in zeros for anything that's missing. So be forewarned, your grade's going to change.
Is that in your syllabus or where would you add that?
Oh,
Because-
it's everywhere. It's in my
It's everywhere?
syllabus. Yeah.
Because there was another comment that I would like to have recorded because I don't think the chats are recorded in the recordings. So it was mentioned earlier about the expectations of communication and notifications. And when we were back on the first conversation of how to set up your notifications for the students to receive your emails and your announcements, I just want this on the recording that you can add in your syllabus, that is a requirement of your course, but we cannot force those notifications to be changed. So in that same area, you would add, this is my expectation.
So before we could we could do forced subscription to their forums, but still they could decide to get the little journal something at the end of the week or whatever it's called at the end of the week. So they still wouldn't see them immediately, the announcements. I think many of us who want to communicate that instantly with students have decided to use another method, email or remind or something in that mind, because the learning management systems are not supporting that immediate alert kind of.
Yeah, with Canvas, if you send an announcement, it does show up not on their dashboard. Those are for the organization. It's for Jackson College, which show up on their announcements, which show up on the dashboard. But any announcement that you create will show up on the course right before the first module, and they will
But
have
they
to.
have to log in. They have to log in to see
Yep.
that, right? So our
Yep.
issue really is the students who aren't logging in.
Right,
Like, how do we
so that would,
reach their phone?
right,
Through an
that
instant
would
message,
be.
an email message, and so if I was using the forums, I forced subscription, but then I realized, well, some of them are setting it up to get the journal at the end, or I don't, maybe Brian, you remember what the word of that is called, that little,
Digest, I think.
yeah, what is it called?
Digest?
The digest, yes. So they were signed up to get the digest, so they wouldn't get my Tuesday alert until Friday. Right. And so then I'm like, okay, that's not working. So now I've got to do something else like remind. And that I do require them to sign up for in my orientation. It's step number 3 in every one of my classes.
Yeah, but
So,
it's
yeah.
tough. It's tough with Remind because they have, you know, this character limit. So, you know, the things I'm sending out are so short. I feel hamstrung by that. So I want to go back to an email system, like sending out emails. But if I'm teaching 4 sections of the same thing, I have to send out 4 separate emails, and that's kind of a pain.
So this is another way I can handle that, Jenna, is I set up all my groups in Remind. And when I have something that's too long in that, I set an alert in Remind, just saying alert email, important email sent. And then I blind copy everybody in the email. So I do send one email in that case.
How do you do a blind copy of the email? You have like a roster or something?
Yeah, well, they used to do the group, like the class group in email. So in Outlook, you could put in your class number, like CIS 101.I50.some22. I could put that in the blind copy spot and it would grab all my students. But I was informed by Mr. Watts, his name, that they didn't build those this semester. So I had to do the rosters, yes.
One thing I started doing this semester is I started using my Google Drive, and I would make a document on Google Drive and I would send out the link to that document on Remind. Now, I think the problem is the students that really don't need whatever it is that I'm sending out are the ones that click on it, and the ones that need it are the ones that aren't bothering to go over there and look at what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So, you know, it's not a perfect system.
No, not
Perpetual problem. The ones that don't need it
right.
are logging into JetNet. They're checking their
Anyway.
email. The ones that need it, we're struggling to reach in any way.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, we can only just keep trying and keep, you know, I mean, we're giving them enough rope to do something, either save themselves or hang themselves. I mean, at some point, Jenna, I mean, you're doing all the effort you can to communicate that information to them. And we're trying so many different methods of communication to reach them. I mean, other than being Mr. Hand in Ridgemont High and sitting in this room and doing their homework with them or forcing them to read the book. I mean, you're reaching out to them. So kudos to you for that, at least. But the sending a link is another way, like you've accomplished exactly. It is still a 2-step process because you've created the message and then you've sent the alert of the message. But at least there, it is a way for you to reach them. Another way you could do that, Jenna, is if you use Google Forms, you could have them all put in their JC emails themselves into the Google form and collect that and send the email instead of having to type it from the roster. This semester I typed it from roster, but if this were an ongoing problem, I may other way in having the students populate the email, or you can copy and paste them too. I think that is what I ended up doing. I copied and pasted them into, also separated them by line and then put them into Outlook so that it processed properly. I have to type them all in.
Yeah, all good ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, we should have another meeting where we have tips and tricks. Just a whole bunch. It sounds like a great idea. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.